bow, chicka, wow, wow.
You can do that every time we open. Hello and welcome to Egghead Anarchy. I am Alex.
And I am Brian.
And we're going to be continuing, if you've just stepped in this episode, our 4-episode series on the St. Louis Slow Jam Game Dev Duel. This week we're going to be having a couple of guests with us. We are going to have... Oh, crap. Wes. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name. Ehrlichman?
Okay.
Ehrlichman. Okay, cool. Wes is a professional software developer, co-founder, and board member of the St. Louis Game Dev Co-op, and he helps out by running the Meetup, Drink Up, and Game Jams.
Yes. The St. Louis Meetups, Drink Ups, and Game Jams.
Yeah, for the... Yes, exactly.
Oh, well, I guess that would be implied by the St. Louis Game Dev Co-op. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
okay. And then, so Scott, what's your last name? I totally forgot to ask.
It's pronounced Petrovic.
Scott Petrovic. Mm-hmm. Cool. And we also have Scott Petrovic, who is working with Wes on his game for the Game Jam. Scott actually wrote a book about Krita, which is a digital painting app. His book is titled Digital Painting with Krita 2.9. And actually, I want to hear more about that when we get to the interview section later in the show, because that sounds super fascinating to me. He also is working on Overfall, which is the game that he's making with Wes. He's a graphic designer and front-end developer and has been doing that for 8 years. So they're going to be joining us for our discussion segment, like we always do every week. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to dig into interviewing them a little bit more about where they come from, the game that they're working on for the Slow Jam, and just their thoughts on game design in general.
Right.
So...
And so, Wes, real fast, say hello so that way people hear your voice.
Oh, hi, I'm Wes.
Oh, yeah.
And then Scott.
And I'm Scott.
All right, thanks.
We are professional. I am professional. Yay! Okay, so jumping into the main topic, before the interviews, we're going to talk about Pokemon Go, because that is all the rage over the last few days. Mm-hmm. Alex, do you want to bring us up to speed on what that is and what the big deal is?
Okay, so Pokemon Go is, I think it's by Krita, not Krita. Dang it, I'm saying the thing that you said earlier. Niantic, I believe is what the company is called. So it's not actually developed by the Pokemon company or Nintendo.
Right.
It's by this company, and their previous game was...
Ingress.
That's right. Yeah. And so it seems like it plays a lot like how Ingress played. There's little locations that you take over, except in this, they're gyms. They're Pokemon gyms, and you can stock them with Pokemon. So then people have to beat them to take them over. And then the other big portion of the game is catching Pokemon. So you have to physically walk around outside to catch Pokemon.
How does that affect catching them all? Like, how does that work practically? Is it possible for you as a person who lives in St. Louis to catch all or a reasonable amount of Pokemon in St. Louis, or do you have to like travel really far away?
My understanding is that a lot of them are region specific. So yeah, you'd have to travel.
I don't really know what the ratio is and how they split it.
Yeah,
because I know there's some people that seem to have a ridiculous number, and I don't think there's a way to trade them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think some of them are very specific to a region, but a lot of them are like just general, spread out far enough so that you're not going to get them all without at least like a hike.
Yeah. And so, have you guys been playing?
I have.
I have not.
Brian?
I have not either.
Yeah, you're not into the Pokemon thing generally.
I'm not into Pokemon. Yeah.
So Wes, what do you think?
I don't really like it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I like the technology, I guess. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I didn't have to walk around, it would be a lot nicer.
If it were just a regular Pokemon game, then
no. Well, the problem is like. So when I play mobile games, it's something I turn on and play around with for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I put my phone away. And this doesn't, like, you turn on your phone. I just brought it up. Turned on my phone, checked. There's no Pokemon nearby.
Yeah.
So like it's not something you can play passively. It's something that basically you have to like stand up, decide to go on a walk and play. And if I'm going to go on a walk, I just like going on a walk is kind of its own punishment / reward. So,
well, what I discovered yesterday, I went and ran errands last night, is that I think it plays well like that, but while you're running errands. So like there's a Pokemon stop at the local post office and stuff like that. So like while you're out and about doing stuff, it'll just notify you occasionally that there's a Pokemon. You can tap it, catch a Pokemon. It is more like on its schedule than yours, though. And you can't really play it at home. You have to play it when you're out. Right.
So it's kind of like it doesn't fit how I play mobile games.
Yeah.
But it's only possible on mobile. So I don't really know.
I did, was in a parking lot and I pulled my car over to the side and stopped for a minute to catch a Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of annoying.
Yeah. I think the ideal way to play it is to plug your phone into someone else's cigarette lighter and just have them drive you around. Because the eggs are going to hatch real quick. As long as like the screen is on, because the steps when you're not playing don't count toward it, which I think is a really bad design decision.
Oh no, it's a really great design decision for them because you have to buy their $35 additional thing.
Yeah, for them.
Wait, $35?
Yeah, there's a little physical accessory that you can wear that basically just all it does is makes it work in the background.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me.
It also alerts you when there's Pokemon nearby.
Yeah.
Which you don't get in the game. Like if I'm like stepping over one,
you do if you leave it open.
Oh well, I guess that's true. Yeah. So yeah.
Just makes it all work as background stuff. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of annoying.
I think that $35 thing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like that might like make it a game that fits inside of my schedule or whatever, but like I'm being on a phone and having to keep it open and having to like make time for it instead of just kind of casually play it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I think I feel the exact same way. I was like, oh, this will be cool. Although I'm going to have to get that $35 little accessory if I'm going to actually want to play this.
Yeah.
I also think they're going to need to add more stuff to it. Currently, the content is a little low. It's pretty cool, but it needs more stuff to do.
Yeah. I'm not level 5 yet. I'm level like 4 and 3/4.
Yeah, same.
So I don't know what gyms are like. It seems like how they work is you fight someone's Pokemon in a gym, and then you can take it over.
Yeah, and you can stock it with your Pokemon.
Yeah, and then I think if you own it, you can essentially like level up while you're owning it. But I don't really understand how that works yet.
I was wondering if it gives you coins, if there's any mechanic to give you the coins.
Yeah,
from playing. Question. Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
So my work is a Pokestop, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So all day, like I guess Friday, I would bring up the app because you can get the same one every like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
I'd bring it up and spin the thing and get free Pokeballs. So I've got like 150 Pokeballs. I don't have to worry about running out of those. But I just unless there's a Pokemon nearby, it's just not very much fun.
Yeah. I definitely see that. But I played it while my girlfriend and I went out and played it while we walked the dog, and that worked too.
Yeah.
I think it seems like it works well, but only if you're a really active person who goes outside a lot anyway.
Right.
Or maybe
I wonder what the overlap of
Pokemon
really active
fans?
people that go outside and people
That's
that
exactly
play
what I was
video
just thinking.
games.
Yeah. I think it also probably works better if you take public transport everywhere or walk everywhere. If you're in a car, you basically can't do anything with it when you're in a car.
So if you're a kid.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Good point.
But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I hope they add more stuff to it is all. Let's hope it has like trading and battling other people, you know?
Yeah.
Now I've heard that that's going to be coming. Like that's a feature that they had planned. They just didn't do it at release. And that feels really weird to me because like the way you explained Pokemon to me previously and just what I've heard about from other people is that Pokemon is supposed to be a very social thing. Like you're supposed to interact with other people. And I find it weird that Nintendo would release the game without that aspect. Does that seem weird to you guys or not?
I think if you look at the stories online, it's pretty social.
Yeah.
Like, because so many people are playing it right now, if you see someone walking around with their face down looking at their phone, they're probably playing Pokemon, and then you can meet them and talk about it. Like, Carol, who also runs the co-op, had mentioned this morning she went on a walk and they ran into some people that were playing and just talked about it. So I think it's social. It's like it's in kind of encouraging real life social contact.
Yeah,
which is probably a better form of social contact than like if you had friends in the game that you could talk to inside of the game.
Well, I think Pokemon has always encouraged that real life social contact. I think that's one of the things
kind
Pokemon.
of what it's always been.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, you need a link cable. You got to go physically connect your Game Boy to somebody else's Game Boy.
Yeah,
go hang out with them.
If they made it where you could trade, but you could only trade in person, that would be really, really cool.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what I assumed it would be, not the other way.
This is a big tangent, but have you tried Miitomo?
No.
Okay, I love that. I play that every day. But in Miitomo, if you have someone nearby that you want a friend, you can just say, I have someone nearby I want a friend. Mm-hmm. And it'll look for people whose region is in the same area as you. Mm-hmm. And if they say there's somebody nearby, it'll send like that signal that you're in the same area requesting friends to the server. And you both have to like choose the same like playing cards on the screen to like match, to like make a match.
Yeah.
And then you become friends. It's like you can become friends with people that are close to you.
Yeah.
Just through the power of like technology, knowing where you are.
That's kind of annoying a little bit, I feel like.
Well, no, you can also do email and stuff, but that's just one way to do it.
Okay.
And most people probably don't do it that way. But
because the last, which one? I think it was X and Y, Pokemon X and Y. Like it decided whether or not you could be friends with people. You had to have like a certain amount of interactions with them before you could be friends with them, kind of thing. And that was really just annoying. I'm like, I've been friends with this person for like 20 years. Can I just friend them on this? No, I have to trade a couple of Pokemon first? Seriously? You're going to tell me who my friends are? How dare you?
It seems like a very Nintendo thing to do, though. Nintendo is a very odd thing to me because I think, and I do this too, I think people treat Nintendo like they're much more happy-go-lucky than they actually are. You know what I mean? Yeah, like they seem very, very much like there is Nintendo's, like they're Apple like this. There's Nintendo's way of doing something, and that's it. Like if you don't want to do it that way, go somewhere else. They're just not interested in what you want to do. Like if the way that I want to play a game lines up with Nintendo, awesome. But if it doesn't, Nintendo's not going to change the game for me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. You've been really down on Nintendo since the whole Allison Wrap thing, I think.
I really have. Like that really was a big deal to me. And like partly it's stuff has happened since then too, where I'm just like, Nintendo is just this giant company. And like they feel like they're kind of losing sight of things, you know, like Star Fox Zero, garbage, you know?
That game's awesome, dude.
What's that?
That game's really great, dude. Star Fox Zero is awesome.
Why?
It's really
Explain.
Good. Did you play it?
No. It's just every comment that I've seen from it says that the controls destroy the game because they're impossible to use.
The controls are totally fine as long as you keep the controller in your lap, like, and keep it totally still. But it's really good. Like I think part of it is that people don't like those kind of games lately. Like what's the last game that has come out that's like stage based, like has like 10 levels or whatever and is pretty much totally linear? It's like not really the kind of game that people make anymore and charge $50 for. So I think it's hard to understand that from a like review standpoint. But if you just buy a lot of games anyways and you don't take the like cost to benefit ratio and you like kind of get to understand the controls, it's really good. Like it's a really good, I would say it is on par. It feels to me like something like Sin and Punishment or what's it called, Panzer Dragoon, or any of those like
Really?
Any of those like linear shooters is basically what this is. It's got weirder controls. Like in Panzer Dragoon, you can turn around and shoot stuff to your side. but to do it, you have to hit L and R. And Star Fox, you have to pick up the controller and kind of look to the side, which makes it weird, and you get like knocked out of, like, unless you hold it totally still, you're going to get off center. But the design is really good, and like, if you like, it is doing what it set out to do really, really well.
Do you think the controls are good, or you think that just the controls aren't so bad that it ruins the game experience?
I think the controls couldn't be better for what they were going for. You can also disable the ability to use to look around, which I think would make it harder to play the game because that's like built into the design. I think what would ruin the game is if you didn't have the controller resting on your like legs.
Okay.
When
I
you
could
play
see that.
Because like it's impossible to hold a controller in one place and not sway to the side. But if you like just have it sitting on your legs, like sitting in one place, it works great. But I'm also a big Nintendo fan, and I like classic games a lot, and it feels kind of like a Nintendo classic game, like more than pretty much anything else that's been released recently.
Okay.
So.
See, I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I think maybe that's exactly the problem that I have with Nintendo. Like, outside of, just kind of being wounded by them just because of the way that they've dealt with some, like the Allison Rap situation. But I think part of the problem I have is actually probably a good thing for them, in that they still want to make the same type of games that they've always made. Right, that's their thing. That's what they do. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is Star Fox is like more of Nintendo doing what they do. Like it's very good for what they wanted it to be. The problem, from what it sounds like to me, from reading things on it, because honestly, even if I still had my Wii U, I would not buy this game based on the things that I've read.
Yeah.
The issue seems to be that what they built is not necessarily what people want.
Sure, but I don't think that's that's art, right? Like if you make art that's not like targeting, that's not meant, which is weird because that's not how Nintendo works. But
well, and that's why I think that's kind of I don't necessarily buy that, because like art should understand its audience in a way that what the artist wants is meaningfully conveyed to the audience without expecting something from the audience that they're not willing to do, right? And the way that you describe the control scheme is the control scheme demands something that is not the way that most people play games.
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy that exactly, because I think most art tends to demand something from the audience that most people aren't gonna do. Like, most people don't go to art shows all the time. They don't go to the art museum all the time. Like, all art demands that you do some kind of thing to be involved in it.
Yeah.
Right. But people who are interested in the art go to the art show.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What Star Fox is asking is something on top of that. It's asking someone to go to an art show and sit in a cold room for half an hour.
So rather than being but the thing that people don't like about it is something that's brand new, that's unique. Like, it's not something that is the same as it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
So the argument, like, that's kind of a mix of your argument with, like, they're trying something new and people didn't. I mean, I think that they're trying something new and they didn't really sell people on that thing, or like the value of the new thing they're trying is not inherently high, which I totally agree with. I think the game came out of basically the requirement to make something that validates the second screen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't a good reason to do something. But ultimately what came out of it, I think, is a good game. And like the last decent game of this type that I've played is Sin and Punishment 2 on like the Wii. So,
and that's a similar kind of like rail shooter spaceship game.
It's not a spaceship, but it's the same kind of thing. It's a rail shooter. Okay. You're like on foot most of it, but and that kind of game is just not like doesn't have a mass audience.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't understand why they greenlit Star Fox, except for maybe Platinum Games, like putting the development on them made it maybe cheap enough to justify to just keep the brand out there. I mean, I don't know.
Did it make money? I feel like
I don't know.
It might have, just based on people buying it because of name recognition.
Because
it's Nintendo,
Yeah.
Well, and that's something I'm wondering about Pokemon too, because just from what I've read and from what you guys have said, Pokemon sounds pretty similar to a bunch of other games that honestly ripped Pokemon off. But like one of which is and this is from a while ago. Aiden Yasmin haven't played this in a while, but a game called Mobbles, Mobbles. And it seemed to have a lot of similar mechanics to the way that Pokemon Go works, in that these Mobbles, these monster things, existed in the real world, and you had to get within a certain proximity to catch them. And then once you caught them, you did things to like level them up. But the things that you did to level them up were like really basic. Like you'd tap the screen to get them food, and then or have them play a guitar or something like that. And if you did that enough, they would level up. And of course, it was free to play and it had microtransactions, so you could buy things to give these monsters or whatever, and that's how they were supposed to make money. But then you'd build these, you'd get these monsters, and then you would fight them against other people who ideally would be in the same physical space as you, but even if they weren't there, you could like fight them wherever they were. And Aiden and Yasmin loved this game. They played it a lot. But it didn't ever seem to break like into mainstream. And I don't even know what happened with the game. I don't even know if the game is still around. This is several years ago that they played this. But I'm wondering if Pokemon Go didn't have Nintendo attached to it and didn't have the Pokemon name attached to it, would the game go anywhere? Would anyone care that it came out?
I think if it didn't, it would have gone the exact way that that game that I can never remember the title of, that is the previous game, Ingress, went, which is it did pretty well for a while, and then everybody forgot it existed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they have already done that, is kind of what I'm saying. So
yeah.
So one of the interesting things about Pokemon is the data, like all of the Pokemon centers and all that stuff, is the data that they mined from Ingress.
Yeah.
To know like where people play games and like what's important to like their audience.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And it's like, that's the main reason I think Nintendo didn't want to do it themselves or couldn't. They probably wanted to do something like that. And then they spoke to Ingress developers and said, or I don't know who started the conversation, but it would make sense to me that they basically wanted that data and talked to them, and they were like, oh, we can make the game or something along those lines. Because that data is like the big necessity for making that game worthwhile.
This also makes me really curious about the idea of augmented reality games. So, I mean, that seems like what this is.
Yeah. Well, right? I mean, one of the first things I did with this game was turn off the AR Pokemon catching.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, because the Pokemon, it's hard to keep it steady, which makes it harder to do. So it like actively impedes your ability to play the game.
Whoa.
It's kind of annoying. It's neat to see Pokemon in the world, but also that it doesn't seem to always choose the best location for them. Just kind of sticks them somewhere. So,
yeah, that's what I've seen from screenshots. Like, it almost looks like it just kind of places them in the center most of the time or something. And like their color tones don't match the background, so they seem to like stick out quite a bit.
Yeah. It's not really in the center. You actually have to turn around and look in the direction of that Pokemon.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. That's real annoying. And I don't want to do that. If you turn it off, you can just tap it and then just keep walking away and not have to stop to try and catch it.
So,
and you don't have to look like a mad person. Because, I mean, the first time I played it, I was outside in my neighborhood, and the neighbors were like, the fuck? They're just...
It's this weird guy doing his phone, pointing his phone at the ground.
Yeah, as I walk by somebody's house with my phone out, and then there's a Pokemon, and then I'm turning and like scanning their house with my phone kind of thing. Looking super suspicious. And I'm like, this isn't great. I don't know.
Yeah, nope, turn that feature off. So like... So that's actively disabling the AR feature in the game, right?
No, because there's still the second layer of AR being the location awareness. Like it knows where you are, and where you are is going to have that specific Pokemon. And that's the important part of the AR.
Consider that AR.
I'd say that's the important thing. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. GPS AR. We made games based on that. Wes, you made one too, right?
I made one.
St. Louis Game Jam.
That was for the science or the zoo, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's it. Like,
and Scott, you also
why do you consider that augmented reality? I guess to me, augmented reality requires a visual component
because it augments your reality. The reality in this case being where you are, not what you can see.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's called VR mode. The Pokemon showing up in the environment.
It might be,
inside of the context of the game, they call that VR mode, even though it's really AR mode.
Interesting. So like, what are your thoughts on AR in general? Like, I guess with this is kind of an example because it seems like the visual AR component is more trouble than it's worth. And I see companies like Microsoft really hammering this hard with HoloLens, right?
I think so. Have you tried a HoloLens?
I haven't.
I have.
Oh man! So what do you think? Like, tell us about that.
So a guy at work bought one, and I can't figure out why because it's like $3,000. There's like nothing on it. Like it's like buying. It would be like buying a Virtual Boy for like $3,000 where like nothing's on it or maybe ever going to be on it. But my experience was that the AR, like seeing stuff in the world is really super cool. And like with the thing on your head, seeing the stuff in the world is awesome. What's not cool is the way you interact with it because it's very heavily gesture based and it's very heavily like it has a very heavy UI. They basically like put you in this really cool headset and then drop a Windows prompt right in front of your face that follows you around everywhere you go.
Oh no.
And to interact with it, you have to put your hand up. To make it come up, you like put your hand up and make a bloom by opening up your hand and then the Windows prompt appears.
Do you think it's using some of the like Kinect kind of technology?
Probably. Yeah. It's like coming out of the front of the headset, presumably. So it like knows where things are. But so you'll like bloom your hand up and then the Windows prompt will appear and you can like choose what app you want to do and you can place stuff in the environment and the stuff stays in the environment. So like he had set up a bunch of stuff that morning in this one area of the office and like when we came to test it out, we looked and it was all still in the same area. There was like a gerbil on the chair that he had put there earlier that day. And so I'm playing around with it and I'm like trying to figure out how to use gesture controls because I hate gesture controls. Like I would rather just like have something that I can tangibly push if it's going to be an abstract control method. Like if I can touch something in the air or like touch an actual physical object to interact with it, that feels a lot more. It feels more coherent. Like gesture controls are like making something harder. Like it's adding layers to the abstraction that aren't there without it, which is kind of defeats the purpose of like virtual reality or like alternate reality or anything.
Yeah, I think this is actually a way that movies have done a huge disservice to technology in that you look at a movie like Minority Report or any movie where there's any kind of gesture-based augmented reality stuff, and we all see what the person is doing. We see the stuff that isn't there, right? The UI. That's not how it works in real life. And like outside of the fact that it just feels weird, like you're saying, there's nothing tactile. Like, you know, like when you tap, do a tap gesture or something, if you're not tapping on a table or a couch, like it just feels weird. But also, I think, at least for me, like when I've worked with anything gesture based at all, not augmented reality stuff, but like, you know, those laser keyboards and stuff, even when there's like the light on there, it just feels weird. And if people don't see the laser keyboard, they think I'm just some crazy person tapping on like a desk. And there's that component in the back of my head being like, I look like I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And there's this weird social component to it where, you know, I see this stuff, but nobody else does. And that just feels very off to me. And I think part of the reason that a lot of people are really interested in augmented reality stuff is because they're thinking it's going to be Minority Report from the perspective of the moviegoer, and it's not. Like, there's this extra layer that no one else will see what we're doing, and it's going to be super fucking awkward, you know? And yeah. So look, what do you think that's the case, or am I like off on that? And
I mean, you have this big bulky headset on, so it's not a big surprise what's happening.
Oh yeah.
It's more the fact that you don't really feel in control. Like,
have you seen
think about the Kinect. The Kinect never really went anywhere, except for with like 2 games. One of those games is like Dance Central.
Oh yeah.
And the reason that works is because when you're dancing, you don't have a peripheral. Like, you're not touching anything. Like, the air, like how your body moves is how you interact with the world while you're dancing. So there's not an abstraction. It's actually, by looking at you through the camera, it's reducing the abstraction of like of something like Let's Dance, where you're just like kind of waving a wand around. Yeah. So I think the level, like whether it reduces the level of abstraction or makes the level of abstraction even bigger is, I think, the sign of whether AR or like any sort of like Kinect, any sort of like body control, for that to work, it has to reduce the level of abstraction rather than add to it. So it has nothing to do with people watching, because people kind of see what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a personal issue, whether or not you feel awkward doing something.
Yes. Fair point.
And I'm sure some people do feel awkward. Have you seen the Vive? How do you feel about the Vive controllers? Because those seem better.
I haven't used those.
Okay. Well, I haven't used them either. Just looking at the way they act, it seems like physically holding something in your hand might be helpful, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They have you can go to Micro Center near us and like try it out, supposedly. Sign up for like 20 minutes to use it.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that hard.
The caveat with the HoloLens is I didn't actually play an app. All I did was see a bunch of stuff around the room and touch it. I think if somebody designs an experience that is built for HoloLens, then it could be much, much better.
Yeah. HoloLens seems good too. I just want a heads-up display in my life. I really do. Yeah. I'd like to be able to see things in front of my face without having to stare at a screen.
So you can actually swipe right on the actual person instead of through the screen.
Just in real life, you're just like, no, go away.
Yeah,
get out.
You're just like...
So I guess another question I have about Pokemon Go. I know, like, a lot of Pokemon fans that I've had, like friends that I've had who love Pokemon over the years, they've all been like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if like Pokemon were in the real world and like, you know, I could catch a Pokemon here, blah, 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 blah. So something I'm wondering is like, does this game, well, one, did you ever think that? Like, you know, I want Pokemon in the real world and I want to be able to catch them and all that kind of stuff. Did you guys ever think that or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does this game like realize that desire well?
I think this is one of the complaints that I have about it in terms of theming, which is just that in Pokemon, your Pokemon that you catch are very special to you. And in this, like, you have to catch a bunch of the same kind of Pokemon to get that Pokemon leveled up. And I think it devalues the Pokemon that you catch because you just catch them and then release them immediately, which is an issue for me.
That's true, yeah. You can name them, but if you have one that is like a lower level than your current one, then you're just going to release it. So what you don't take the time to name it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think moves might be more important unless you can change those somehow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because they all have moves, and you can always level it up to be a higher level, but I don't know that you can change the moves. So that might be the most important thing when you're deciding which ones to keep. But I mean, you decide which one to keep, and then you catch a whole bunch more of them, and then trade them away immediately. I think that's my biggest complaint so far. And I mean, the battle system isn't as good. I can see totally why they wouldn't make it as good, because this is an online experience, and they're trying to capture the idea that Pokemon is for everyone. In the Pokemon universe, everyone is involved with Pokemon. But if they made the battle system like it was in the games, like no one would play this. Like only the people who play Pokemon games would play this game.
Yeah, I think the key to a good battle system in general is to use it to help pace things.
Yeah.
And the pacing in something like this, it has to be really quick. So, I don't even like playing Pokemon battles online, because it's like you're choosing one attack and then waiting forever. And it's like the whole point of it is to like kind of see who wins, but it's mostly to level up when you're fighting stuff in Pokemon. So unless you're like super competitive, playing online is just kind of a chore.
Yeah. I mean, the competitive multiplayer is only for competitive playing.
Yeah.
Wait, so there's competitive multiplayer in the game?
Not in this.
Not
in
in
like real Pokemon.
Well, there kind
gotcha.
of is competitive multiplayer, but it's all it's not direct. So you go and fight things that people had set up somewhere, and then set your own stuff up so that way people can fight them. But you never directly interact. It's through the gyms.
Yeah, and the gyms are at specific places. So
Yeah.
Interesting. So you can only battle at gyms?
yes.
Yeah.
So does this feel like a real Pokemon game to you guys, or does this feel like another game that has the Pokemon name and some mechanics?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it feels more like Nintendo is going to take it seriously and support it like a real Pokemon game than something like Pokemon Rumble or like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, where those are like clearly spin-offs. I could see this being the first go, and then either them iterating on it and continuing to make it better, or them releasing like iterative versions like Go Gold, Silver, or something along those lines, and making it into a real thing.
I think that's exactly. It's not quite there yet, but if they could just add more stuff, and it would be. It's a good basis. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I think we have established by this point that Wes knows his shit when it comes to games, and it's some really excellent insights on stuff. And so I am very interested to hear about more about the game dev co-op, and like where that came from, what your involvement's been, all that kind of stuff. The game that you're working on for the Slow Jam this month, and just kind of dig more into you as a gamer and a game creator. Again, being that, you got some fucking chops, like, how this stuff works.
And
so
Scott's still here, yeah?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
hopefully this will get, we'll get to hear from Scott a little bit.
So
been learning a lot about Pokemon Go.
Yeah. So you're not a Pokemon fan, I take it, Scott?
I played a few of them. I mean, I played it like the old Game Boy ones, like when they were like primary colors, like red and yellow,
before
stuff like that.
They were Pearl and Diamond and stuff.
Yeah. I think after they broke like 350 Pokemon, I'm like, oh man, I have to memorize another 150 Pokemon. So that's just, the games look pretty good so far. But yeah, I haven't really been following too many of the new ones.
Okay.
So let's talk game development, St. Louis, and this month's Game Jam. So how did Wes and Scott, how did you guys get involved with the Game Dev Co-op? And just a little bit of background. The Game Dev Co-op is actually where this podcast came from, because I started going to Game Dev Co-op meetings. I've been wanting to do a podcast forever, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself because, well, me just talking by myself isn't interesting. And I wanted somebody to counterbalance, somebody to like debate with, argue with, talk about things with, and somebody who had really interesting perspectives to talk with. And so I was just hanging out, and I want to say we were at Orbit Pinball Lounge.
Yeah. It was at one of the drink ups.
Yeah. And I just happened to mention something about wanting to do a podcast, and Alex volunteered.
That's where you met me. I don't know where you met this person with like interesting opinions, though.
Oh, Alex, you're so humble. And so like we talked about it, and it was kind of just like, you want to do the thing with the sure, we'll do the thing. Okay, cool. And we started, and it's been absolutely awesome. And so like for me, the co-op has been incredible. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of different types of people, bunch of people that love games, that have varying degrees of interest in actually making games, and just a lot of weird, interesting people that have been a lot of fun to hang out with. And so I'm interested to hear what Scott's introduction to the co-op was, and I'm also interested to hear from Wes kind of where the idea came from and when he first got involved. So Scott, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think I first heard about the co-op.
Well, think about the meetup.
Oh, the meetup. Yeah,
it started.
So I mean, really, prior to the co-op, I mean, I guess the game development community in St. Louis has been going for a number of years. So there were like drink ups going on. There were monthly meetups, and I think there were more things going on than just once a month. And I guess it was just Wes and Carol, and I don't know who all of the incubators were for this idea, but I guess just some of them were wanting to kind of get together and have more of a, I guess, local community driven initiative for, I guess, this game development stuff. So yeah, I think I originally heard of like the game co-op idea. I don't know if it was through a meetup or maybe it was through like the Science Center when they originally like announced. I think it was announced at the Science Center on one of the days. But
so you're talking about the co-op a lot, but the co-op is kind of just like a rebranding of the stuff that's been going on with both of us. Since I'm trying to figure out what year, it's been at least like 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's. I don't know how long you've been doing it, but I know we started doing stuff. I thought it was 2009.
Yeah, you and I, like, Scott has basically been in this like game dev community since the beginning, when it was basically just me and him. At
I met you at
Borders or Barnes and Nobles or something like that.
I met you at Starbucks.
Yeah,
that's how I originally met you. You were I was actually going to like a graphic design meetup group. Okay. And then for some reason at the end of it, you're like, you didn't seem to care about graphic design. You were just like, hey, if any artists likes doing game development, you should think about checking out this game development group. We're gonna like head over to the Trainwreck place down in Westport afterwards. So I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So yeah, I kind of
I didn't know that's how you started. That's funny.
I think so. I thought. Do you remember doing that?
Oh, I remember doing that, but I remember. So I went to one graphic design meetup, but there was a game design meetup at that time too, and I think I just wanted to see what the graphic design meetup would be like, and like kind of see how much overlap there was with like game development, graphic design. Because there was kind of a meetup at that time, but it wasn't that big. And then Scott and I ended up, I think, just kind of hanging out a couple of months in a row with Jimmy Finn.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah. And then that kind of died off. And then a company called World Key started the meetup site again with Nick Apperson.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know Nick from Lockerdome. Yeah.
Yeah. So he actually started the meetup as part of his startup to try to find a local game development community that he could try to get to use his collaborative game development software that he was writing.
Oh, interesting.
But his goals never really got met, and his like startup eventually, I guess, crumbled. But the meetups stuck around, and in the beginning, it was just kind of like me and Scott and Jesse and Tim, and kind of like a lot of the people that are still around. And actually, the person that helped run that and kind of set it up was Sam Coster, because he was an intern at World Key at that time. And he like set it up for Nick, and there was just kind of the meetup that was at the World Key offices every month for probably a year or a little bit less.
Yeah, the World Key offices, they were actually really close to the Wright office in Clayton.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was like the second wave of the meetup, which was when one of the people that had been attending the game dev meetup was a chiropractor.
Michael Glickert.
Yeah, Michael Glickert. And he, like, we needed a spot for it, so we had it for about a year, I think, in a chiropractor's office.
Wow.
And awesome. Then we kind of connected with Simutronics, and Simutronics era kind of happened where we had the meetup at Simutronics, and Alanka became a big part of it then. And it was at that time that Carol, Ben, and Dana came to one of the Simutronics meetups, and they ended up becoming like a big, like Happy Badger Studios, who that is, and they ended up kind of becoming a big part of the meetup, and then kind of splintering off and starting a second. Like for a long time, we had like 2 meetups every month. There was like the regular meetup, and then there was like the IGDA branded meetups that Carol would run. And at a certain point, we decided to kind of merge forces and make a very, very St. Louis oriented group rather than an international one.
And that's just St. Louis Game Dev Co-op. And and you guys kind of dropped the IGDA.
We kind of dropped the IGDA branding and stuff. So, and it also merged. So it's called the co-op because we want to cooperate with the community, but also because we want to, like, it's a co-op between all of the disparate kind of things that were happening inside of St. Louis, like the meetup, the IGDA, the drink up. So it's all kind of underneath the same umbrella, where it's all like, it's not owned by any one individual. It's owned by this it's actually officially a nonprofit. Yeah. So we have nonprofit status, and we're going for 501(c) soon. So it'll become cool. Non-taxable nonprofit.
So just a quick question. I know you may not have this off the top of your head, but how many registered members does the co-op have?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I don't really know. Like, we don't really push for membership. The membership isn't super important to us. It's just that people are making games in St. Louis. Becoming a member is just a way for people to show support to the community itself. And that money just goes back into the community. Right now, we haven't done a lot with it except for throw the Christmas party.
I'm a member. I'm showing support. Are you a member, Brian?
Yep, I am.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to catch you out there.
Scott's a member. Yeah, so the membership is cool. Again. I appreciate it, but it's mostly like what more important than the money is just like coming to stuff and wanting to make games and doing your best to do that. So we don't really push that. It's just a way to give back. And before we had any money, like we would have to find sponsors for everything, and like that along with sponsors comes like meeting their needs, which is sometimes good, but sometimes we just want to do stuff that it's just purely focused on the community or focused on raising awareness to like the St. Louis game dev scene. So, yeah,
that's cool.
Cool. And so, do you have a Wikipedia page, Wes?
I don't.
You could.
I know of.
We've done third-party reportage on you now. You could make your own Wikipedia page and link this as your source.
Awesome.
Whoa.
I've only made a Wikipedia page once, and it got canceled because I was too close to the organization.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome. So, bringing us up to the current, that was a really good history of the co-op and the drink up and everything. I had no idea that they were all kind of this loosely connected, like amorphous group of things. I just thought that like the meetups and the drink ups and all the jams and everything were just part of the co-op. Like I thought that was the co-op. That's interesting. That
I can remember when it was before the co-op existed, going to stuff, and Wes, you being at the beginning, like, I mean, this is the meetup. It's not the IGDA. I mean, you know, whatever. Like,
that's awesome. So currently, one of the things that I really like about the co-op, I've been to, participated in 2 jams so far. And I feel like we do a bunch of jams with the co-op, like every year, which is great. The first one that I was involved in was the Global Game Jam that was on the was it SLU campus? Was that SLU?
It's UMSL.
UMSL, sorry. And then the current one that we're doing right now, the Slow Jam, what was the logic behind doing something like a slow jam? Because it's a very different format than other game jams. Like instead of 42 or 78 hours of concentrated time, it's a month of regular life and trying to make a game. So like, what's the logic behind the desire to do that, to switch up the format?
So most of the idea came from Stuart Keating, who is one of the members. He's one of the board members of the co-op, and he also runs Earthbound Brewery and is a lawyer and he's all over the map. But he likes to do game development, but doesn't really have time to pick a whole weekend out to do it. So he's been pushing to do this slow jam as a way for him to make games. Actually, the first thing he ever came to or did anything with was the first Game Dev Duel, which was, I think, 2 years ago in December. We did a Game Dev Drunk Duel where I announced it at one drink up and said, hey, we're going to try to make games by the next drink up. If you want to make something to show it off, just bring it to the next drink up and we'll just hang out and play them. And the best team will get a round of drinks, which is not really worth caring about how good your game is.
Yeah.
But it was just like one of those things where it's like a way to tie it all in together. Mm-hmm. And we had 3 or 4 games. Happy Badgers came with a drinking game where you had to choose kind of truth or dare and turn your phone upside down to like decide which one you were going to do. And that I think is actually out on the App Store for Android. And I made something where there was an iPad in the middle of the room, or of a table of people, and you would like all register yourself, and then kind of challenges would be presented to certain people, and you'd have to kind of do things while the game went on. And then it would be little mini games that you all play together. But really, the scoring was whether you could do the challenge presented to you at the beginning of the game before the game was over to win a lot of points. But it was pretty fun. But yeah, Stuart had made something that looked like an old EGA game, and it was a translation of a card game he played into like a digital format, and it was really cool and really impressive for someone that just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Like, I don't even think he was at the drink up where we announced the event. He just like made something and brought it. And he ended up kind of becoming he's the treasurer of the co-op, and also he suggested doing that again, essentially. And it sounds good because one of the really nice things about the Slow Jam, the Dev Duel, is that we don't have sponsors, and we don't have like, that's a lot of work. Every global game jam is getting a lot of sponsors and getting t-shirts printed and getting a lot of swag like made and preparing food for everyone. And so getting out of that stuff and essentially saying, come to this if you want to make a game. It's kind of like, I wanted something to say, if you're serious about making games, here's a context and here's our community to support you. But it's really all up to you.
I didn't even notice there were no t-shirts.
Yeah.
Wes, where am I going to get my t-shirts now? Like 7/10 of my t-shirts are Game Jam t-shirts.
If you guys want to sponsor,
an exaggeration.
Yeah, no,
that's make the t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what is so you guys both actually are working together to make a game for this game jam, right?
Yeah.
So what game are you making, and what's it about, and kind of what was the impetus for it?
Okay.
You might you might know better. I mean, we just we just kind of became a team a few days ago, really. So, I didn't even know what the name of the game was until about 30 minutes ago.
So there is no name yet. The tentative name is Overfall, and the idea behind it is. So I was thinking about how Towerfall or how Overwatch is really, really popular and really gained a lot of attention because it has a lot of characters that are represent a diverse group of people, but also play totally differently. And I've heard people refer to it as kind of Street Fighter as a first-person shooter, and I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. So when people bring up that and like I think about like what drew me to Street Fighter, I think having interesting, unique characters that kind of play differently and you can choose which one matches your fighting style or your like tastes, what you're good at in games, is something really that not a lot of games do, surprisingly, considering it seems like a good way to to kind of let people grow attachment to a game. So I wanted to do something with a wide variety of characters. And I also wanted to do something that wasn't a lot of work, that could be developed as like as kind of a walking skeleton of just like the bare bones version, and then add characters as the time goes on. So if we get one character done, we have a game. If we get 10 characters done, then we have like kind of a really good game, or like the vision. So the idea was make something simple that could be iterated on and have content added.
The superhero,
like
the vision?
the game. Not that. So
really quick, can you explain what a walking skeleton is? Like what that means?
So walking skeleton is an agile term where so agile software development is where instead of planning an entire project up front, you get the bare minimum built, and then you add to it as you get feedback from people using it, and kind of as needs kind of arise, and you kind of can prioritize work as you add to this base project. And walking skeleton is that base project of here's the bare minimum to be kind of like to be usable and solve the problem. Now the only place to go from here is like adding things until the benefit of adding things outweighs the cost of the features. Very cool.
Very cool. So I know the two events that we've had so far for this game dev duel. I love calling it a slow jam. I can't get over that. So like it's been like a big thing has been, like have a game to show by the end of the month, right? The August 1st or whatever. So something I'm really curious to hear what you think about is, I know for me, like I've tried to make lots of games and I get stuck with basically the scope just getting so big that there's no way I can ever get it done, and then I stop, right? Yeah. So this, especially with giving people a month to work on a game and to like work through design and all that kind of stuff, it seems like there would be, and definitely tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like there would be ample opportunity to over design or do what I tend to do, where you build something, you think of something so big and think, well, I have a month, I can definitely do this, and then get to a point where nothing gets done. So like how can I, as a developer working on a game, kind of keep scope small enough that I'll have something to show that I can be proud of at the end of the month? Does that make sense? Because I think like there's a lot of people that want to get into making games and they think it's a super cool idea, but things like game jams I think are a really good opportunity to kind of get a foot in the door with making games, especially shorter game jams. But with a longer one like this, and Butterscotch Shenanigans talked a little bit on, was it Wednesday, about this?
Yeah.
But like, what can I do to keep the little bit of the nugget that I have for the game that I'm working on now from getting out of scope, so that when August 1st comes, I actually have something that I can show, instead of something that I can be like, well, but it doesn't do this and it doesn't do this, but it does this, blah, blah, blah. Like, how can I keep focused to get stuff done for the month? Does that make sense? Did I do a good job asking that, or was that a super confusing question?
Scott, do you have anything?
I mean, I guess with the experience with what I've done, it's usually good to, I don't know, it just sounds like just think really simply in terms of like game mechanics, and just get something, I don't know, get something going, just get that player moving. And I feel like the ones that seems like evolve the best, and it seems like the jams that I've been to that have the best results usually start off with something just like getting something really simple working, and then just like slowly building, kind of like like that agile approach that Wes was talking about. Is don't really even just start big, and don't like over plan anything, because a lot of times once you start getting into it, a lot of things start happening, or you start getting other ideas as you're going. And it seems like games a lot of times like kind of evolve based off who's on your team or what problems you start seeing whenever you start playing with what you have.
Yeah, I think the walking skeleton was part of that. Part of the thing that you could do to aid in making sure you have something.
Yeah,
just get the bare minimum going to where you have a playable game, and then it won't matter. You can show it off. You can show your game off in that state if you need to at the end, and then you can be happy with what you've shown off. The other advice I would say is try to choose a game that does one thing well, rather than a game that does a whole bunch of things like not too well, or maybe you want them to do well, but if you have a game that does one thing well, then it's going to be something that people remember at the end, instead of something that does a whole bunch of things half-assed is not going to be as memorable as the one game that does something really, really well.
I agree.
And yeah, I think my issue with this game jam has been just procrastinating.
Me too.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten that much done so far, and just trying to weave it into my life, my regular schedule has been sort of awkward, because I'm like, oh, this is the time I normally do other things, but I got to try and like switch to working on this game jam project.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like it hasn't been as much of an issue, because like I typically have some kind of personal project that I'm working on anyway.
Yeah.
And so just instead of working on whatever that other thing was, now I'm just working on this. Oh, yeah. And I gotta say, one of the reasons that I'm going after achievements so hard, because that's another thing about this slow jam that I think is just brilliant, is the achievements. It's kind of funny to me because, this isn't a competition, and you guys have been really adamant about that. But the achievements make it a competition. I mean, let's just be totally honest. Like it is, but in a fun way. You know what I mean? Not like in I'm losing. It's just it's I'm getting a lot done, right? Just like achievements in video games. And I think the achievements are a really brilliant touch, because they do exactly what you were just talking about, in that they give guidance that is like small pieces, right? So there isn't an achievement for creating a battle system, because that's a big deal. There's an achievement for naming your game, having a lose condition, creating a Git repo, and working for 3 hours, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I like how when it comes to like advice on how to build a game, you get a bunch of game designers together to figure out how to tell people what to do, and they gamify it, make it a game to learn how to make a game.
Yes.
So actually, the idea behind that I called this a game dev duel because I happen to have the domain. Yeah, not a lot of people like the name. I don't really like it or hate it, but I like that I had the domain, and it wasn't really doing anything. So but anyway, we're going to make it a slow jam, like a month-long thing, and call it game dev duel, even though that doesn't have to do with the month-long thing. But it was at the one of the meetups at Riot. Dan Eichling was there, he's a, I think, agile coach kind of role at Riot.
Mm-hmm.
He suggested, he's like, when I heard that name, I was thinking, man, it'd be cool to do like achievements or some sort of unlockable thing. And I was like, you know what? I think you're right. Like, that's one of those things that can push this event from being like just something where people make games in a month, but something where people make games in a month and finish them, like, and keep them motivated, like give them best practices to actually get them to stick with it. Because it's really hard to know all the things you're supposed to do or like you should do or things that will make you more productive. So solving that problem using the achievement system was kind of the goal. And it was going to be pretty lame, but Tim Healy stepped up and basically built a really, really nice site that is easy to update and that tracks everything in a much more visible way than I was going to do it. So, I'm just like, the community always seems to step up and do awesome stuff. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been incredibly impressed with not just the size of the St. Louis game dev community, like the kickoff for this slow jam. We were at the Science Center in a decent sized room. All the seats were full, and there had to have been 30 people at least standing. So there was probably almost 100 people in that room.
So I counted the number of people that filled out a sheet and handed them in, because that was how you made a team. Mm-hmm. And we were up to 85 people by the end of the night.
Wow. That is awesome.
There's been a couple people that have been added, but I have a feeling that a couple people also kind of decided not to do it, because there's about half of the achievements, no one has any of them, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome. So I just realized actually I got to talk about my introduction to the Game Dev Co-op. You guys got to talk about your introduction to the Game Dev Co-op, but there's someone here who hasn't had that opportunity yet, and that is Alex. So I think I'd actually like to give Alex a chance to do that, and then we'll wrap things up. I think that'd be kind of a nice little bookend. So yeah, Alex, can you talk to us about your kind of introduction to the Game Dev Co-op group and kind of how that happened?
Yeah. It was a few years ago, like 2.5 years ago. I went to one of the global game jams, and that's it. I mean, so I went to the global game jam, and we made the game. Whatchamacallit? What was it called?
Masochist
Pinata. That's right. And that's where I met my girlfriend. At that
wow,
first
cool.
Global game jam. And then we started going out and we started going to these game dev events and stuff. And yeah, I've just been continuing to do that.
That's cool. So what keeps you coming back?
Events are cool. I like building games and stuff. It's a good place to do it, you know?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So, can you, Wes and Scott, can you give us any kind of an idea, like what's coming down the line for the co-op, like upcoming meetings or plans that you guys have, or like anything that might be interesting coming up for the next, I don't know, few months or so?
Okay.
And we totally gave you no time to plan for this because we didn't tell you we'd be asking you this, but
that's cool. Did you happen to see that the third check-in has been posted to the meetup site?
Third check-in?
Yeah.
Haven't seen that yet.
Oh, well, good. Well, I posted the third Game Dev Duel check-in to the meetup site, and that one is on July 20th, and the speaker will be Rose Hemlock, who is an Agile coach at Asynchrony, where I work, and she's going to talk about optimal work practices and creative projects. And kind of delve deeper into kind of the stuff that I was talking about earlier with the walking skeleton, and essentially help teams try to figure out how to optimize their productivity in a remote kind of with remote teams. So hopefully that it being the 20th will still give teams enough time to kind of like learn practices that they can actually use. And then after that, there's going to be another check in probably. I don't have a place for it or like a speaker yet. So so hopefully we're going to do that one.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the demos. But then next month, sometime in August, we're going to do a talk on how to learn RP, or Phil Storzum will talk about RPG Maker.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name? And someone else is going to talk about using audio in the context of RPG Maker, like making songs and adding sound effects and stuff.
And Scott, are you going to be doing any talks? Because I know you wrote this book recently.
Yes.
I don't think I have any talks coming up in the area now.
You did like a talk after your book, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
That might have been before the book. I did. That was like a talk on like open source art programs.
Yeah. So real fast, tell us about the book and all this.
Oh, so pretty much like one of my passion projects is the like drawing and painting. I like doing a lot of art things. So I more or less met up with some of these open source developers. Most of them are in the Netherlands, and yeah, I got to using it a lot, and I'm like, this program's really awesome. And what
is that program again?
So the name of the program is called Krita. It's Krita, and the website's krita.org. But it's just a drawing painting application. It's similar to Photoshop, but the main difference is it kind of has more of a focus on doing drawing and illustration for like concept artists and animators and things like that. But I guess just after helping out with them for maybe about a year and a half, starting with the website, I do all the website design and development, and then I'm in charge of all the user interface design and all the new features. I kind of design what they look like and how they function. And I thought it would be good if I'm doing all this stuff. It'd be good to know the program really well. So I thought writing a book would be a good way to learn the program really well.
And so what's the name of your book?
So the name of the book is called Digital Painting with Krita 2.9. So it's on Amazon or Barnes and Noble and places like that.
So how does it feel to have a published book?
I know, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all right. I feel like with the world of like publishing, it's a lot easier to, like, I actually self-published.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to actually some publishing meetup groups to meet a lot of other authors. I guess what that process is like and what's hard. And I originally was trying to seek out a lot of other publishers for doing things, and I either just didn't like, I guess, the process. A lot of traditional publishers, it seems like when you want to come up with a book from scratch, it takes a really long time. And I thought like a lot of technology books, technology moves so fast anyway, they usually get very outdated. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to move really fast, but most publishing companies just don't work like that. So in addition to me getting rejected by quite a few publishing companies, I also I was spending enough time. I'm like, why don't I just do this myself? Like, I already have like the graphic design experience. I've done layout for catalogs and a lot of other things. So I thought I had a lot of the skill sets to try to do it myself. So yeah, I probably spent about a year just from I probably spent about 3 or 4 months writing, and then I contracted out for a copy editor, which I've heard if you get any professional help when you're writing a book, make sure you have a good editor. So I made sure I found an editor through the publishing group that I go with. And then, she specializes in like nonfiction technical type manuals. So I didn't realize a lot of copy editors, they have their own specializations with what type of books they review and how they review things. So yeah, I found one of them, and then between writing it and then revisions and then pushing it out, it took about a year for everything. But yeah, it's out there. So yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a good accomplishment, I guess. I kind of had a goal, and then it's done. And then a couple of weeks ago, I also had it translated into Japanese. So there's a Japanese version as well of the book out there.
Oh wow, very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah.
Well, cool. So yeah, again, that's digital painting with Krita 2.9, and
correct.
Like you said, it's available from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere else.
Yeah, I was told I'm going through 2 distributors for the publishing, Amazon to do all the Amazon related stuff, and then there's another company called Ingram that supposedly takes care of almost everything else that's not Amazon. Because I guess a lot of you could think a lot of bookstores and things do not like Amazon, just because what Amazon I guess is doing to them. So Ingram is pretty much like the counterpart to Amazon that helps distributing like everywhere else.
And you can get your book as an ebook or a physical book or both.
Correct. Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. You can get it through an ebook or a physical book. So yeah, like the paperback versions, like it's retail for $40, but usually you can find them used for a lot less. And
you don't get anything if they buy it used.
Yeah.
Actually, the Amazon works a little bit differently than a lot of people think it works. Like even though stuff says used or new, a lot of times you actually do make a profit from those, because even though they say they're used or new, like if you buy the other versions, they're actually they end up being like resellers through Amazon to make it seem like you're getting a better deal. So it's kind of like the clothing industry or a lot of other industries where you get like you'll go to Kohl's because you have a 30% off coupon, but they're still making a profit even with that 30% off.
Yeah.
It's Amazon actually has there's a lot of weird things like that actually goes on with Amazon. So I mean, more than likely that a lot of the used stuff that's even on there is like I'm probably still going to be making a profit on. But I mean, I didn't really write the book to be becoming a millionaire, which I still have a day job, so I don't expect it to be doing that, but it was a pretty fun project working on that.
Very cool. Well, cool. We are I think we are coming to the end of this episode. I would very much like to thank Scott and Wes for joining us. And it's been a lot of fun, and I hope everybody liked listening to it, and we will be back again next week with another team from the Game Dev Slow Jam to participate in our discussion and pick their brains about what they're doing.
Yep.
So
I'm Senior Don Gatto on Twitter if you want to contact me.
That's right. I am BSG Brian on Twitter. Where are you guys on Twitter, Scott and Wes?
I'm just my name, Scott Petrovic.
I'm at Wesley TE.
Wesley TE. Very cool. So you guys have an awesome week, and we will see you soon.
Oh yeah, and thanks
you
guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Oh yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah,
very
this
much.
is a blast. And you were going to say thank you to who?
Overclock Remix.
Oh
for
yeah,
our theme
yes.
music.
Thank you again. Yes, yeah, for all the music that you guys are hearing in between these segments. Indeed.
All
Yeah,
right.
you'll see remix
Next week. Bye.
Bye.